There we go.
Okay.
Now it says it on mine. You did
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
You did it, John.
We are live. Fantastic.
You're the technological pastor of all time.
I don't know about that. We started about 3 minutes late here, it looks like, but at least we're live, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, hopefully they hung with us for 3 minutes.
Right.
If I'm on this, they have to hold for. It's like old professor rules. How the old grizzled professors, you had to wait longer for a lecture, right? If they weren't there right at the beginning.
That's right.
Well, happy Easter Sunday, everyone.
Happy Easter Sunday.
Season. Yeah. No.
Yeah, I think I said
you had a sign there. Did you have a sign of sorts?
That's right. I'm just making sure. I can't see myself yet, so I want to make sure if I show people the sign, they see what it is here. So I think we should also say this. Happy Mother's Day.
Yes, to every mother out there. Yeah, that's a big deal. This parenting that's done, all who provide maternal care. It's when we say Happy Mother's Day, we have a wide embrace of that maternal loving that is a part of God's work. So
yes, lots are doing that work of mothering.
When I'm sure Kara's already had breakfast in bed, I'm sure, right, Pastor?
She had breakfast. We made we're doing eggs in the hole a lot, which is you cut a little hole in the center of a little piece of bread, eggs, a little avocado to go with the toast. How to do that? Grapefruit. My hope is, since she makes almost all the food for our family, that she doesn't have to lift the plate today. She can have food brought to her all day long. That would be nice. Yeah. And the kids made a couple little videos for Mother's Day, which was fun. And we played those.
I do know there's going to be some losses on this Mother's Day because in some contexts there's generational divide, especially for older mothers who are trying to stay safe and not connecting with their adult children and so forth. So it's harder.
Yeah, I was thinking how often for Mother's Day people go out to eat. Mm-hmm. That's like a typical thing. For whatever reason, my family was never very into lobster, but for a while on Mother's Day, we would go to Red Lobster. Like that was the thing we did. But today there won't be that, but hopefully they'll order in, and that would be another way to support restaurants and help moms not have to make the food for a night.
Yes, Sunday brunch on Mother's Day going out. Whenever we tried to pull that off, it was after the third restaurant lineup. We bailed, I ruined another Mother's Day just trying to go play it by ear. But look, this is my oldest coffee mug. It's a Great America. It says Frank on it. Does it read it backwards? Cool. It reads it backwards.
No, for you. For us, we read it forward.
Okay. Because that was my first job, was when I was a freshman in college at Cal Lutheran, and I came home and I got a job when it had moved down to the Silicon Valley area, and I worked in Fort Fun for 3 weeks until the Bureau of Land Management called and said, "Hey, you want a firefighting job?" And I said, "Heck yeah!" I bought this mug and I was out of there. I worked in Wyoming instead. That was a big swing. So I found this one in the cupboard.
Speaking of mothers, I bet she was a little worried at times as you were doing that.
All mothers and fathers worry about their kids. They're concerned, and I appreciated that in your sermon. Your parenting. I really liked your sermon, John. I felt your heart.
Thanks.
I felt your heart in a deep way, and and all of us kind of reach a point with this thing at different times. And but I was glad you shared. Obviously this had been a week where you had thought about kind of where we're at in a pretty deep way.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I'm getting used to as we're sheltering in place is that, and maybe I think I've heard other people say this too, we're having to face ourselves a lot more clearly because you're in one generally contained space. So being aware of yourself is kind of on the rise. And some of those parts aren't things we love about ourselves. Even though God loves us wholly for who we are, we don't typically. So kind of learning about that. And so for me, it did help to turn a corner as I've reflected, and also kind of just gotten out, done these walks for myself and listened to music and just had this ability to kind of breathe before I've started my day, which is a gift that typically I've not had because, usually my family's out the door pretty early to get the kids to school. So I've had more of this opportunity to just go for, 10, 15-minute walk, clear my head, and then kind of be really fully present. And it begins, I think, my thinking and other people as well, I know, as to what would you like to keep, assuming into a future when things do go back to normal, what are some of these habits or things that might be good for us so we can try and keep?
Yeah.
So a morning walk for me is kind of the ideal way for me to start my day.
I was thinking about you there with your two elementary school age kids, and I was my little Bible, which I have in my briefcase all the time, but it's for the eyes of a younger pastor than me. So, and I'm kind of, to get the light right, I'm really in the dark, but I love, this is an NIV translation.
Yeah.
And this one was, do not let your hearts be troubled. And then it's not believe in me. It says, trust in God, trust also in me. And then this line, and I thought immediately of you, Pastor John, my Father's house has plenty of room.
Plenty of rooms, many rooms. Yeah.
Plenty of room,
I've seen that, even in how we've played out the day. There's like times when it's like, okay, this is the quiet free time, and kids go to their rooms because they need space from parents, and
Right.
Parents we find a little corner in our house. We've got, we don't have a ton of space, but enough space that we can separate for a bit. It's true.
Yeah, we're having this experience together of sheltering in place. Some of our people, I say this every time, doctors, nurses, grocery store workers. Now this is expanding out to, as we're starting to tentatively open up, that are having a slightly different experience. Some people have been just slamming it at work, hard,
Yeah.
protecting us and all of that. Some people are all by themselves. Some people are in their homes with their young kids. It's a shared experience, but it's also, as all of life is, and I should not presume that my experience of this and the internalization of it is what your experience is. And I also felt that came through in your sermon. We have this opportunity for God to come to our inside. And what does that mean?
Yeah. I've even talked to people in the same household who are having completely different experiences. One who's kind of feeling good about sheltering in place, having time to pursue old hobbies or new hobbies. Right. And another who is, mourning the loss of travel and a desire to do that at this moment in life. And so reevaluating what's my purpose right now. So even in the same household, the experiences can vary pretty wildly.
My two adult children, one of them, Dylan's over in Copenhagen. He's in a school, I don't know if that's even generally known. He's been there most of this year getting his MBA, and he is an extrovert. And this is killing him, and then Christina, who many people know because she's at church, she loves working with the high school youth, is more introverted. And all I ever, like when I see her on the screens or see her, she's got her knitting out. I mean, I think she's like happier in a weird way. She's working with this, she's got a job at the state. She's still working, but from home, and she's got knitting needles in her hands. I think that makes her super happy.
Yeah.
Everybody experiences it differently. So
it's interesting. I think the other thing that I was kind of fascinated with this week as I was, contemplating the texts, they seem to have a theme of God as refuge, God as divine place and person in whom we can put trust, but also in whom we can dwell. I really think this kind of dwelling place image that Jesus is saying to the disciples, and he reminding folks, he's talking to the disciples the day before he's going to die. This is the Last Supper.
Right.
He knows, and in the Gospel of John, he knows, right?
Yeah.
In that Gospel, Jesus knows fully what's happening, for sure, clearer than the other Gospels. And so in this Gospel, he is leaving final words as loving parent slash friend, slash teacher, because he says, you're now my friends in the passage slightly before this. But he's trying to offer them comfort that they can dwell with him in their future. But also I think there's this present nature to it too, that
Yeah.
I've really been feeling on my walks and other moments, that I need to kind of rest and dwell in God right now. Because if I let my mind go too far to the future, I almost feel this like I can only think in 1 to 2 week blocks at most right now. If I walk my mind too far down the future as to what might happen, how we'll reopen or not reopen, how life will go back to normal or not back to normal, I can get pretty anxious. And so this kind of dwelling in the spirit, dwelling with God as refuge really, really hit me. And that's when the memory of that song, You Are My Hiding Place, came up as well. So I saw this kind of theme.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought that was your music right now, singing. I actually did a little ditty from last week from a camp
Mm-hmm.
song. I just want to tell
Yep.
you, if I could sing like you, I'd sing your songs. But I thought your sermon reminded me a little bit about what I was trying to communicate about the Good Shepherd Sunday. There's the shepherd that leads out, but there's that shepherd that brings in,
Brings it.
tucks in. And so our lives have this movement out, following, and this movement in, of being gathered and protected. And depending where we're at, you know,
Right.
we need both those. We need both of those understandings of who God is for us.
Yeah. And the
It's pretty
shepherd
important.
theme, in your shepherd metaphor, you can almost think of that as day and night, because, during the day,
Yeah,
you go out to pasture for them to graze, the sheep.
yeah,
And then I love the pictures of your sheep last week. And then you come back and they kind of get penned for
yeah,
safety at night. And I think people are experiencing on a daily basis, like night and day moments over the weeks. I've had good weeks, I've had tough weeks,
yeah.
and that awareness of self and that kind of flow in your own household is part of it. And so that the fact the song, why that song just has always pierced my heart. And if people have not heard the Selah, Selah version of that, oh my gosh, this male female duo just crush this song. They'll break your heart with it in a beautiful way. But the song leans into the minor key, and yet the words are comforting. And I just loved that, because minor key makes us feel unsettled.
Right.
It's like most of Phantom of the Opera. It's like great. It's that edgy kind of music that doesn't resolve neatly. And so the melody speaks to unresolved feelings, and yet the words are about songs of deliverance. I will trust in you.
Right.
You are my hiding place. And I just love it.
I do believe Stephen Johnson and our musicians, our music program, does a good job of not just staying with like pray in a praise mode, but like often the psalm lets us get deeper. It takes us down. It lets us touch in with our losses. Speaking of losses, I'm not gonna. It's interesting because right over my shoulder, right there, is an old chalk. It's actually one of those chalk paintings of my mom and dad. My dad's up in the upper corner, and that's my mom below. And it's funny because when you're on a Mother's Day, you think about your mom, and in a way, this is what I was thinking, because this your text I've used 50 times
Right.
for memorial or funeral services. And we've got some of our people, like you said, some of our people we just can't have a funeral for right now.
I know it.
At Gilgrove Thayer and Billy Blankenship, and Bethany Davis, one of our members, her mom died this last week, and she, we're not able to do these things live.
Chuck Reed, even a few weeks before.
Yeah, that's right. And that's kind of not from COVID-19, but just what happens with life. And so, but this is what I've always said to people, and often when I meet with them the first time, when after you lose someone you love so much, it's like they actually aren't ever gone. They're always just right with you.
Yeah. I think that's really, really true, and probably, and I hope, a real comforting word to those that might be hearing that on this stream, that are feeling this imposed detachment from loved
Yeah.
ones at a time of loss. It's really hard. And I see it and hear it in our members, even who are not experiencing death, but just health issues that are
Yeah.
causing separation from parents or loved ones, where
Or
you got to leave them at the front door of a
yeah,
hospital, you know,
economic issues are really
economic
crushing
issues.
some of our folks.
Yeah.
I acknowledge the losses.
Hmm.
It is real. They're not there in this, things are not there in the same way, but there is a way. I think that's what I'm trying to say. The way changes, but it does become more of this everlasting to everlasting kind of way of seeing life. It's a very spiritual eyes sort of understanding of what's there. And so it was so interesting that on Mother's Day and that we had this reading of many roomed house,
Many
you know, so
rooms.
yeah. So
Yeah, a lot of times I've preached about this for moms or grandmothers or great grandmothers, and I imagined, Jesus preparing rooms. But to me, I also imagine those moms and grandmas and moms, in heaven preparing spaces for loved ones is something
yeah.
that my mom I know would be a part of, and many moms are a part of preparing the meals, the spaces, all those
Right.
kind of welcoming and hospitality gifts that moms seem to have in droves, you know?
Right. I was
Yeah.
thinking, we've talked about, shepherd, you talked about parent, friend, all these ways to understand Jesus and God. And, one of the ways we need to understand ourselves is as we are really charged to be stewards of the faith in this time. We are, I've been reading the scriptures like when I've loved reading about Peter and Paul and the early disciples, and sometimes we could think, oh gosh, those folks were so important. But I think the way we are right now as followers of Jesus, and I get emails and letters from people that are so helpful to me, advising me, and it can be completely contradictory, and they're on it. They're both on it, like
Yeah.
about what we need in the church right now and who we're supposed to be. And gosh, please communicate with us about what you're seeing, the journey of faith. But we are important in our day as what we're reading in the scriptures right now. And I just love that we get to do this together. There's no certainty. There's just no certainty, but we have each other. Everything we just said is very relational. And
Yeah.
later today, there's that watch party for the on the stewardship, care of creation.
Care of
And
creation.
those people are really proposing a relational understanding with God and the earth. And that's through our ELCA. And then these leaders that we're blessed with at St. John's who are offering us leadership to get in touch with all of life around us better.
Right.
And so
Right.
I want to, that's what time, that's at 1 today, right?
That's at 1 o'clock today. And I know one of the things Vicar Carolyn has talked to me about, we've talked together about, is this interesting moment in history that as we're sheltering in place has almost been a Sabbath for the earth.
Yeah.
We saw really early on canals of Venice getting sort of naturally cleaned up by lack of activity and dolphins returning. I actually took a walk to our Tower Bridge with my kids in Mass this week, and they're barking seals underneath our Tower Bridge.
Wow.
Now, seals have returned to the bridge,
Right up the
and
river, huh?
it's really kind of fascinating how quickly nature is ready to
Yeah.
restore itself.
That's good.
If
Yeah.
we're kind of aware of it, and the air in some major metropolitan cities has been cleaner than it has been in years.
Yeah, I think we as Christians do better when we don't fight issues, but we get in touch with things. We get in touch with, and that includes getting in touch with others we're not always in agreement with. Why, we're having some controversy right now about should we be open, should we not be open, and I have very strong feelings that part of our discipleship response is to love our neighbor enough to make sacrifices, but I don't want to lose touch with the values that are underneath how people are feeling when they're feeling strongly about things. And that relational life, I'm convinced, that starts through Jesus being I am that I'm the way, sort of like helping us through. We can hear that very exclusively, and I know we've used that at times to pound others that they don't have it right. And that's if you're going that way with the scriptures, you're not letting them avail themselves to what Christ is hoping. But this great way in which we are given this opportunity to not have to just we don't make the way, we just find the way offered, and we go, so I hope that's a comfort to people, that because we got important work to do, just being, but we don't have to worry about getting it right. We just have to kind of go where this inclination is that Christ is making available to us.
I think the moment in history we're experiencing is also letting us experience the gospel as American Christians closer to the emotional impact that the disciples felt than ever before. For example, Jesus is saying to them, I'm going to prepare a place and you know the way. And Thomas says, we don't know the way, show us the way. And that, again, like you said, Jesus's words that follow that are so famous are not exclusive words about how to be a Christian and be saved. They are comforting words, Jesus at his pastoral best saying, you do know the way. I am the way.
Right.
And the truth and the life. Know me more closely is what Jesus is saying.
You hear the difference, just the way it's the beckoning. It's the invitation, I think of the way in which I watch parents with young kids, when a kid's starting to go off the rails. When a parent's really working it, they can allure a child to a different path than what otherwise might be. Not every time, by the way, Pastor John. I'm not trying. I'm not being foolish. I really struggled as a parent of young children, but I watched it enough to see, if we really think of God as parent, I think I start out every sermon now with God, our loving parent, and then when I'm preaching, some aspect of and Jesus Christ, and then I pick out some aspect of who I've seen Jesus in the gospel. But this God as loving parent has become really important. Right. Not God as parent on a parent's worst day, which were for me many. I had many worst days, but on God as loving parent on that day when it's all working, So
right. Yeah, I think I've seen that too, and had the rare moments come to me where a lot of in parenting, it's just sort of like there's the presenting factor, which is the temper tantrum or the moody misbehaving or something, but then there's like what's really going on underneath, right? Like my son who was crying and said, what's going to happen to my G.I. Joe toys?
Yeah, that's
it
right.
It was about, what if something were to happen to me, what will happen to my stuff and me, and what's that all about underneath of it all? So it's not about the toys. That's the presenting factor. It's this fear. What's the future like? And I think that's where we now feel more connected to the emotional moment of the disciples, because I think you and I could genuinely ask, we don't know the way to reopen. We don't know the way, Jesus. We're in fact, we are starting a task force, right?
Yeah.
Ask these questions.
We've been in strategic conversation, but part of the thing we're realizing is we don't have, we can do some good work, but we really don't have all the information. Linda Baldwin she is our point person in terms of researching the kind of the administrative side. But I know one of parish nurse, Susie Taylor, is really really looking at the health side. And so there's so many sides of this that we are looking at as we don't want to rush to be foolish.
Right.
We shouldn't be in a rush. this is what
Yeah.
I'm thinking. We need to be in relationship with Christ and find our connection there. We're hearing some people that are saying, I'm in a at-risk category. I'm not going to be the first person back in the
Right.
sanctuary.
Right.
I have, and I want to say, you know what? We need to be the church for those folks. In addition to the people that say, man, I need communion. I'm like dying on the vine out here.
Right.
To which I want to say, we're going to have to figure out a way to address all of that.
Right.
And it might have to have strains and the church be very kind of go here with this family or this age group and go here with these other people, but we're hearing them, and
Yeah.
I'm acknowledging the wisdom I'm hearing in all of them. So
Yeah. It's going to be a multifaceted project to reopen church that I think I heard this metaphor from you, and I quite like it. That's going to be not like turning a light switch on,
no,
but much more like a dimmer switch
right.
that's going to have gradations as we kind of try to come back.
I do
Because there's
think,
some,
yeah, I do
yeah,
think
there,
we're like a hybrid car right now, and likely we'll stay a hybrid car.
right.
We're going to always need the physical. We're going to need to be able to gather and assemble, but we're also going to be this virtual way of gathering through technology is going to be a part of who we are.
Mhm. Yeah.
And God is working through this, by the way. It's rather amazing. The music, the editing, the filming of the people of St. John's, these worship services. I know I'm getting to want to have my rear end in a pew. I get it, but I'm also spiritually fed by what your sermon that you gave to how many people were in that sanctuary when you preached at John 3? Alicio, let me guess, Alicio,
Two,
SB.
including myself too.
Oh, it was you and Tim.
It was Tim, myself, and Alicio.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes often SB has heard my sermon.
She was at the front desk
yeah.
when I was in.
It's odd, but it works. Somehow it works, and we just do trust in God.
Yeah.
Do not lose heart. There's something in this gospel for this week that I think the timing of it for this week and your sermon is going to help me, Pastor John. And that's what we need to remember. We don't get everything because everything's probably not best for us, but God gives us what we need. And I want to encourage our people. I'm going to challenge some folks out there. This week, I'm trying to contact people, and not just the people I have been contacting, but I just reaching out to some new people. So, hey, at St. John's, somebody just kind of figure out another person in our community just to reach out to. I know Irma Kuman, and they Walter and Irma were really a part of our Missa Hispana when we had a Spanish language service. They became very good friends with an older lady in our congregation, Jean Gadare. You know Jean, and Jean, hasn't, even before COVID-19, hasn't really been able to worship with us. But Irma just called her, and they had this beautiful conversation. These are the things where the church all of a sudden comes into complete focus. Nowhere, it's not in a sanctuary singing, but there are those opportunities. We need to kind of explore them. And I'm gonna challenge and invigorate our people to do something like that this week. I think of Shelley Brazel with Bernice Jurich kind of setting up her computer in the garage so that there's social distancing, but letting Bernice, who does not have a computer, is not online, worship with us. Now that is a faithful response, both of those women, to what the times are calling for. And I explore that for yourselves, you and your family. I'll do it with Rhonda, and I urge everybody to keep finding their way in that.
I think that's a great kind of invitation. And you made me think to mention as well, on our website, we've got a button for members to update their member information. And what would be good about that, not only is it good for us as a community to have people's updated information, but people now have access to an online directory to those who've listed their numbers. So you could search for the name of that person that's on your mind, get their phone number if it's listed, and reach out and just say, hey, I was thinking of you this week.
You can choose to have your number available to people within the church. So it's not out there to the world, But this
Exactly.
is, it's a controlled way to be able to be community together.
Yeah.
I had one last thought. I'm looking at my mom over my left shoulder there, but I was thinking just in this kind of final thought about Mother's Day. Bernice, and you didn't know Tony Jurich, Bernice's husband, I don't think. He's just a great man, but they didn't have kids. But boy, Bernice loves her nieces and nephews. And I think where Bernice has gotten to in the church, along with like other matriarchal women, just amazing women we have. I'm thinking of Beverly Buell, and I'm going to miss all, there's just some marvelous women on this day. But in a weird, very interesting way, I'm focusing on Bernice because she didn't have her own children, but in some way she has become the matriarch of an entire community. There's a mothering, a maternal, a gathering, a strength, that I'm thinking of Bernice on this Mother's Day, even though she does not have a child calling her. I mean, we all call upon her to kind of help us in this kind of way. And I want us to think in that broad sense of, because when we think narrowly, we start to exclude, and a broad way of thinking of the world wraps the whole world into the life that Christ hopes for us. Many rooms in that house, I guess, is what I'm saying, Pastor John. Many
Very
rooms.
Cool.
Yeah.
You make me think that we could think of this in many forms for people, in the way that they are mothering with strength, and that nurturing power of a gardener that we see as an image for God and the holy often enough, that we could think about, those ways in which this moment in time really needs the power of mothering in the world, for sure, for us to remain faithful to this moment.
Amen. And I just want to say, I feel like we're kind of wrapping up. Do you feel it happening? I think it is, but we have elected the two of the pastors in this forum we're doing now to not, I'm not even seeing all the running comments that are happening.
Right. Vicar Carolyn's helping us out.
Carolyn's answering some of those, but we'll go back and look, and we'll be back in touch with folks. The reason we're doing it this way is we want two pastors in conversation, hopefully to touch a little deeper on some of the theological stuff, rather than being just trying to answer questions in the moment. So if you're wondering, well, why didn't Pastor Frank acknowledge me? It's because I didn't even see, if you put something in there saying, hi, Pastor Frank, I haven't seen it yet. Yep. But Pastor John, you and I'll go back, we'll review, and
we'll look.
We'll be in touch with folks, and hopefully our vicar has been able to answer as we've gone along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, God bless everybody.
That's good to have a conversation with you, Pastor John. Thank you for your preaching. And I miss Sunday mornings. I miss being with our people. But you know what? We are together. I miss the physical. I do. Yeah. I'm a being. Yeah. I miss it. But we are not socially distant. We're physically distant, but socially we're together. And I'm going to keep allowing Christ to help infuse that understanding into my soul. So.
And I want to invite people to look for those opportunities to virtually connect, even though we're physically apart. I'm doing a check-in spiritual snack at Wednesday at 3:30. I know Linda Baldwin's hosting a check-in on Fridays. I don't know the time, but you can find that information through our website or weekly email. Let us know if you're not getting that weekly email, and we'll sign you up. And there are other things popping up as well. Pastor Amy's got 2 Bible studies. Yeah. One, I think it's, if I remember right, it's Wednesday evening and Thursday afternoon. So look at those times.
Yeah, looking at
part of it. There are ways to check in with each other.
I think she's moving from Resurrection Accounts very soon to the Lord's Prayer.
Lord's Prayer, with maybe a week off or so in between.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about, because we've been working in worship with some of the additional translations of the Lord's Prayer. Mm-hmm. And so this is a timely thing for us to kind of know what, with Pastor Amy to work through this very important ritual part of our lives. But there's a lot of opportunity with us in translation and in letting it touch our hearts in new ways. So that'll be a good study for people to engage in.
Yeah, you bet. Maybe we should end by saying, go in peace, serve the Lord.
and live God's love in the world. And I think it's time for another cup of coffee for me here, my Pastor Frank Great America
You
cup.
bet.
All
I've
right.
got this and a little PLTS on the opposite side.
Amen. Hey, great to see you
You too.
all. And God bless you, Pastor John.
God bless. Take care, everybody.
Thanks.